My name is Coach Steve Stark. The guy next to me there is Coach Glenn Derby.
Hey, guys.
We are owners of TrenchTraining.com, and we train offensive and defensive linemen. All right, so let's get started. All right, tonight we are going to discuss what it means to be on a B team, what a B team is, what the A-B system is the programs use, what some of the advantages and disadvantages are of that, and probably most importantly, how we as parents, not just coaches, but we as parents can deal with having a child on a B team or an A team for that matter. But just kind of discussing what that means and how we deal with it. So I think first thing we need to discuss, I guess, is just what is a B team? Maybe not everybody's aware of that or understands what that means. But what a lot of programs do when you have enough kids to create more than one team, some teams will split the kids evenly. So what they'll do is if you've got 50 kids for a football program and you take 1 through 50 and you evaluate them and kind of rank them accordingly by skill level, by how ready they are to play football, I guess, and then you kind of break the kids up evenly. Now, positions do come into effect, especially in football. I suppose baseball, basketball, probably not as much. Maybe height comes into play a little more, but you're looking to try and make the teams as evenly split as possible. Some programs do that. I would say the majority of programs that I've seen across sports do more of the A, B, C, D system, where you take the kids 1 through 50 and the top 25 are on the A team and the next 25 are on the B team. And then if you have 25 more, they'd be on the C team. Some call it blue, and McQuantico here, we got like blue and gold and white and, different colors they use, but it's split up by more by talent level and maybe not so much talent level as it is readiness, where they're at physically, that comes into play too. Because I know some very talented kids that that are smaller, not quite physically as ready to maybe put pads on or whatever. So there's just different things that coaches have to look at in deciding that. And I think that, I think there's a couple ways of looking at that. I think with an A-B system, you probably get more equal competition when it comes to playing because most programs use that system. And a lot of times you get into leagues where there are A and B teams. And I think it varies by sport too, and kind of which sport it is, what system would work better. So I don't know, what's your experience, Coach, with A-B systems and how that works?
This is a great article you wrote, Steve. And I think there's a lot of different philosophies, but for me, what I like to see is, especially, 3rd through 8th grade, what you do is you get your coaches to do a draft, and basically each coach is going to draft players. And what you're hoping is you're going to hope to get basically as even of talent on all the teams as you possibly can. What this is going to do is this is going to give your players an opportunity to compete like players with like players. Now, what does happen a lot is that coaches and parents and players, in my opinion, lose what is the ultimate goal is. And the goal is, in my opinion, from what I've done and from where I'm at, is you're trying to build the players up to be great high school players. Okay. Winning championships in the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade is fun for a moment. And I think this is really important, Steve, is that, when you win a championship as a 6th grader, you're going to talk about it for about 2 hours, probably going to get your ice cream afterwards, right? And you're talking about it at Culver's. When you're a 25-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old man, you're not going to be talking with all your buddies and saying, hey, you remember when we were in 6th grade and we won the championship? You know, you may say it, but people are going to look at you. Really? Sixth grade? You know, the bottom line is, I think, is what is the goal? The goal is to try and help kids do two things. Well, actually, three things. Number one is to have fun. How's a kid going to have fun sitting on the bench not playing? So whatever you're trying to do with your A, B, C, however you want to call it, red, white, blue, whatever you're going to call it, is to try and help put kids in position so they can have fun playing the game. Number two is trying to teach them the proper techniques and the proper way to play the game. I think we lose a lot of focus on how to play the game because we're so, coaches and parents and even somewhat players, but it's more the parents and the coaches, are so worried about winning and losing. So they're not worried about the next level. So take a kid, develop him, help him get better so that when he's a high schooler, he's going to be at top level. And then the third thing I think is to teach kids how to handle adversity. I know when I was at Kettle Moraine, we had a big problem with what happened was the kids would come into our high school program. So basically then in the 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, those kids would win state championships 3 years in a row, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade state championships. They get to the freshman level. Now, all these programs meld into one program, right? So all these freshman kids are on the freshman team. They go and all the other schools do the same thing and put all the kids together. All of a sudden, Kettle Moraine, at that time we were doing this, they lost 3, 4, 5 games. And every parent and every player pointed their fingers at the coaches and said, you guys are the reason we're losing, because they had never lost before. So the only thing that was different in their mind is that the coaches were different. So it was the coach's fault. And the reality of it is these kids had never handled adversity. They didn't know what it was like to lose. And so now all of a sudden they lose. The first thing they did was point fingers at everyone except for themselves and said, hey, I'm responsible. I didn't do what I needed to do for us to win. And it really tore the team down. And what we did as a coaching staff is tried to get down to the youth levels and say, listen, do some drafts. We want the goal for every team is to win. Obviously, the goal is to win, but don't lose sight of what's most important is the kids having fun and learning how to play the fundamentals of the game.
Yeah. Well, and I think the big thing that I take from that, coach, is, again, making sure that the kids are having fun. And
absolutely,
I think I had an experience. I wrote about this today. A couple years ago, my daughter was playing basketball, and she made the B team. And at that time, I felt bad for her that she wasn't on the A team. That was our first experience with an A-B team. Up to that point, they had split the kids evenly. But the leagues that they were getting into were all A-B leagues. So when you split them evenly, there were teams that would dominate them. And then the kids that went, the evenly grouped squad that played in the B league would just destroy everybody. So it just didn't work. And so they had to kind of conform in order to make it competitive, because the girls weren't having fun. The girls getting beaten badly every week weren't having any fun. The girls that were killing everybody, it might have been fun for a little bit, but it also wasn't challenging them. And so making that switch and understanding, for me, it was like getting gut punched, and I'm like, I never had to deal with that. I also played in a smaller community where you didn't have more than one team. So, but it was tough, and watching her react to it is what helped me, because she didn't care. She was like, oh, I actually have some closer friends on that team. It'll be more fun. She had a great time. And to be honest, she probably fit in better in that group. And, her talent level, or where she was at, I don't want to say talent level, but more kind of where she was physically, mentally, being able to play the game, how she was kind of connecting the dots. She wasn't quite there yet, but she took that year on the B team and really played well and had a great year, gained tons of confidence. And that's the thing that I saw more than anything else, is she went from kind of a timid player, with girls that were probably a little bit better than her, and always taking a back seat and never wanting to kind of put herself out there. And going from that to being able to be assertive on the court and be confident and be just more aggressive, and it really helped her grow as a player. And the next year she made the A team, and so if I had jumped the gun and got all over a coach and said, and she was close, she was obviously one of those kids that's right on the bubble of, did she go here? Did she go there? And I could have made noise then, but I didn't, because I knew she was having a lot of fun, and that having a lot of fun playing in a league that was definitely a place where she could shine a little bit and be more aggressive and not be as intimidated really helped her grow. And I'm seeing the same thing a little bit now with AAU is, she's just on the edge of that, making the elite national team, and not. And I'm hoping that we're going to have kind of that same situation where she's going to get pushed, but maybe not thrown into the fire of being kind of at a national level, because I don't know if she's quite there yet, So it's an interesting thing, and I think we as parents need to take a step back and understand what our kids want, how bad do they really want to play, and understand that we're not always the best judge of their talent either. I've been a coach for a lot of years, and I'm still not very good at judging my own kid. Yeah. And I don't like to do it. I like to have others be that judge for me, especially in a different sport.
There's an article that I've read a few times that's phenomenal. And what the article basically said was, as a parent who also coaches, or as a parent who has played before, you're absolutely right, Steve. It's very difficult. But what this article wrote everything about was that there's 5 words that you need to know as a parent. And it's the only 5 words you need to ever say or ever talk to your kid about. And that is, I loved watching you play. Or I saw you do this. And all it is that the kids just want to know that you're watching. And I'll see a lot of times when I go to youth sports where all the parents are standing around, they're up in the stands, some of the places, they're actually having cocktails and they're hanging out. And all of a sudden it gets to the end of the game and either their team won or their team lost. And I'll see the kids go over to the parents, and what I'll see the parents say is, "Oh, I'm really sorry you lost," or, "Hey, you guys did awesome, you won." They never once mentioned what they saw their kid do in the game. And those kids that are out there playing are hoping, and they just beyond hope. And I see them looking, especially as a coach, I'll see kids looking up in the stands, hoping that their dad or mom is watching what they're doing. And I'll see the disappointment. And I get this all the time from my daughters. There's times where someone will come up and talk to me and I'll say something to them. And it just happens to be the time when my daughter looks over to see if I'm watching. And so at the end of the game, she'll say, "Dad, you weren't even watching." I'm like, "Yeah, Scarlett, I watched you." And I would tell her, I said, "I watched you do this. I watched you do this, et cetera, et cetera." And, "Oh, you were watching." I'm like, "Yes, I watch you. I try to watch you play. At the time you looked, I might've been looking away." But that's what 95 to 100% of the kids, that's all they care about, is having the parents or having the coaches say, "Wow, I saw what you did. I loved watching you play. It was so cool to see you out there trying hard and giving everything you got," and not focusing on coaching them. Let the coaches coach. Even if you have bad coaches, still let the coaches coach. Your job as a parent is to be a cheerleader, to cheer them on. And I know at Arrowhead this last year, it was another experience I had with, and we called them the red team and the blue team. And you know what? Everybody knew it was a B team and it was an A team. Our better players were on the A team, the kids that weren't. But what I emphasized over and over again to the guys on the B team is, and we call them the blue team, but, like I said, it is the B team. And I said to them, "Hey, listen, some of you guys are going to be starters as seniors. I don't know which one of them you are. And right now I can't tell you because you're not, and as you mentioned about your daughter, maybe they aren't at the maturity level yet. But kids every year will change incredibly physically and maturity wise. So what I would emphasize to them is say, listen, if you really, really, really want to play and you want to make it on the varsity team, you have every opportunity to do that by listening to what the coaches are saying, working on your technique, working on things you need to work on. And if you have those kids focusing on those things, it doesn't take long and they don't even realize that they are on a B team. We had a blast going against the other B teams, and we had like 4 games that it came down to a last minute, and 2 of the games we decided to go for 2 to win. And unfortunately we didn't make them, so we didn't win. But you know what, to be in a competitive game like that is all it's about. And Steve, I've heard you say many times before is every kid should look for every opportunity possible that they can find to compete. And it doesn't matter whether it's A team, B team, C team, D team, F team. If you're competing, you have a chance to get better and you have a chance to move up. And it really comes down to how much do you want it inside here. And I had 2 or 3 of my kids right now that were on the B team that I really honestly believe are going to be significant players for Arrowhead as juniors and seniors, because they have that drive. They're just not physically mature enough yet. And they'll get that.
Yeah. And you know, I think we all need to realize that kids, when they're in 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and even up into high school in 9th and 10th grade, they're all still developing. All those kids are still developing, no matter how, you know, and some of them have already peaked. So
right.
Some of those kids that are on those A teams when they're in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade are done. They're done growing. They're not going to develop. And,
right.
and that's just the way it is, because some get to develop faster than others. Many times, and I don't know where this came from, but I want to say it was like in the 90%, like 93, 94% of the kids who are the absolute best player, and I think it was 4th grade, will not even start in the same sport as a senior.
Yep.
94%. It was a 90. I know it was. And I'll have to find that article again. I should have shared it in our article, but that's a crazy number, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
But it's the truth. How many kids do you remember when you were little who were the best player at something? I can remember 2 of them from the time I was in probably 3rd to 5th grade, who were like the most dominant kid on the field. And by the time we got to high school, they could barely make the team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm specifically thinking about football players. I'm sure there were some basketball players like that too. And it's because everybody develops at a different age and at different levels throughout their lives. And, you know, I think back to, what is it, with Michael Jordan, didn't play basketball until he was a sophomore. He got cut from the JV
he played,
team,
but he
wasn't
but he got cut.
He got cut. Michael Jordan got cut.
Yeah.
He's the GOAT, man.
Yeah.
That's the greatest of all time right there. That guy got cut in high school.
Yeah.
And that just tells you, you just don't know. You just don't know. There are guys. There was a guy playing last night for Seattle, I believe, a tackle who did not play college football.
Wow.
We're going to have to look him up.
Yeah,
because
for
he's
sure.
an offensive tackle. I want to say the guy didn't play college football. I'm like, what? And I meant to look at that. I just didn't have enough time trying to get everything done. But that's unfathomable, isn't it? That a guy can go without playing college football and end up in the NFL. But again, I mean, you see guys all the time who start out at a JUCO or, don't get a scholarship out of high school. You know, I think about Joel Nellis, who just wrote the book,
I just
Walk On This Way. Think about all those guys that were walk-ons. Jim Leonard, J.J. Watt.
J.J. Watt,
He was a walk-on. The guy, it's the best defensive player in the NFL for the last couple of years. He didn't have a scholarship at Wisconsin. He had to earn the scholarship because he developed late. You know, he just didn't develop that way. So, I think that's the big thing is, as parents, we just need to keep encouraging our kids, making sure that they understand why they're playing their sport. Because if they love it, they're gonna stick with it no matter what, whether they're on the A team or the B team, and that they need to know too that sometimes kids just develop in different ways. And you know what? I watch my daughter play. She may not develop. She may not connect the dots. And that's okay. That just happens. Some kids it happens for, and some kids it doesn't. But as a parent, you got to be okay with that, because if you're not, your kid's going to be miserable, and that's not what you want. Nobody wants that. So,
I think the other thing too, Steve, is that what you're talking about is so important. Is what's the passion of the kid? And I'll give you a good example. There's a father, a father that I worked with, and hold on one second. I'm going to just answer Michael here. So he has a son who's a 6th, 7th grade, something like that, 6th or 7th grade. And he asked me, he said, my son really, really, really wants to be a wide receiver. I said, that sounds cool, And I said, so what's the problem? He goes, well, he's not really playing much. And I said, okay, so, what has he done in the off season? What has he tried to do to prepare himself for the year? He said, well, I try to ask him to go out once in a while, and do stuff. I said, listen here. What you need to do is you need to say to your son, do you want to play this game? Because football is unlike a lot of other sports. Football is incredibly physically, emotionally, and mentally a challenging game. You can't just show up, put your pads on, and be good. Some kids can actually just show up at basketball and be good, and some kids can show up at wrestling and baseball, and they just naturally are able to be good. It's very difficult to do that in football. And so what I told him was, I said, find out what his passion is. If he really, really wants to be a wide receiver, when you come home for work at night, and I said, do you do this? I said, so when you come home at night, say, hey, bud, you want to go throw some routes and do some practice on your cuts, and let's work on our ball handling. I said, so if you come home 4 days a week and say, hey, Johnny, let's go do this, and he says, no, I'd rather play video games, or I'd rather go with my friends and ride bicycles, you'll start to figure out that he doesn't have that passion. As a parent, and I see a lot of parents that really want their kids to be football players, if the parents want it more than the kids do, it's not, you're not helping the kid out, and he's probably going to get burnt out, and he's probably going to quit at a young age. And so it's more important to find out what he's passionate about. So maybe include some other things with your kid that they really like maybe they like some arts and crafts, or maybe they like to go bicycle riding, or maybe they like to hike or play with the dogs, or whatever it is. Really kind of ignite that passion with them. And if they really have passion for football, you're going to find that out by doing that. So some of it really comes down to how you parent your kid in helping him or her find their passion. You mentioned it with your daughter, maybe she has it, maybe she doesn't. We don't know. How do you know, Steve? You're not in her body. You can't do it. I try that with my daughters all the time. I'm like, oh man, come on. I know I want it really bad, but it's hard for me to know whether they want it really bad. And so it's more important to try and really, help learn how to ignite the passion in your kid. The Michael Jordan story, I read more about that, and it's an awesome story. And basically what happened was the coach told Michael, hey, you've got more talent than anyone on this team, but you're not going to play this year. He didn't actually get cut. What happened was the coach told him, you're not playing this year because you are wasting your talent. He said, the only way I'm going to allow you to play on this team is if you show up for practice every morning at 6 a.m. and you work harder than anybody out here. And basically, so what Michael had to do is he had to get up extra early. He had to come to practice and prove to the coach for, I think it was 6 weeks or something like that, that he would show up every morning at 6 a.m. and work harder than anyone else, because Michael had a lot of talent and was playing only on his talent. And this coach saw that and said, Michael, you're not playing on my team. You can wait till next year and play on another coach's team, but you're not playing on mine, because the only kids that are playing on mine are the ones that are going to give everything they have and are going to work to reach their potential. And so Michael learned, and he said this in this article, that specific coach he owes everything to, because he taught him how to, no matter where you're at in your game, you can always work harder. You can always find another way. So he went on to explain that when they won those 3 world championships, he was up every day doing the same thing that coach did. And he said he, blocked out all the other things that were going on. He learned that he had to work harder than anyone else. if he wanted to be great. And if you ever get a chance to read that, I highly, highly recommend it. It was, I had chills up my spine the way he was explaining how passionate he was about this game. And that's what I think a guy like J.J. Watt, Tom Brady, some of these guys that are just at the top level of their game and are winning championships after championships, and they're not succumbing to, all the negative pressures and everything else. It's because they're laser focused and they've got that passion ignited. It's like, it's a fire that you can't put out. And it's so cool to see in kids. And as a parent, I think that's what we need to focus more on with this A, B, C, D teams, is not worried about where they're at right now. Worry about what's going on inside of them and where they want to go to. And if they want to go to the college or pros or wherever they want to go, just because you're on a C team doesn't mean you're not going to make it to the NFL. Just because you don't get a full ride scholarship. And Steve, we had at least a dozen kids that got full ride scholarships and never even saw the football field. At Madison when I was there, they never even saw the field, didn't even get to play. And I saw many kids like what Joel Nellis in his book wrote about, kids that were walk-ons, came on and defied all odds and beat everyone out just because of that burning fire inside them.
Yeah. Well, and it's really understanding that, we can't put limits on kids, and we can't put too many expectations on kids either.
Right.
I think you got to kind of have a balance there of, the expectation is that you're going to have fun, and the expectation is that you're going to work hard, and the expectation is, if you want to get better, it takes work, and not that we're just going to wake up the next day and be a better player and the next year. And, you don't take those things for granted. You have to work to get them. And, we see it in all the kids that we've worked with over the course of the last year. And I would say 201, we saw kids make vast improvements, and that it's just so much fun to see, because those were all kids that really wanted to be there and really wanted to improve. And
what's cool about us is they wanted to improve their fundamentals. And I think that's one of the things that a B or C team player, or an A team, all players, but when you're at a C or B team, the one thing that you can improve, and a great Mike Webster played 4 Super Bowls for the Steelers, was also a Badger. I got the opportunity to talk with him, and he told me, I asked him, what's one advice you can give me going into the NFL? And he says, Glenn, it's the same thing I tell a 9-year-old as I tell a junior in high school, as I tell someone in college, as I'm telling you right now, and as I have to tell myself on a regular basis. Every single day that I go out on the practice field, I can find one little thing each day that I can get better at. And if I just focus on that little thing every day until I perfect it, I'm going to become a better football player. Most players go out and they listen to the coaches, which you need to do, but they listen to the coaches in the big picture, and they don't take care of those little bitty daily things that you can do on a regular basis, and they're not going to improve their game. So no matter what level you're at, what grade you're at, what team you're at, you always, always, always have an opportunity to improve on a little thing, whether it's changing from an 8-inch step to a 6-inch step, or whether it's placement of your hand instead of up on the shoulders, down into the armpits, whether it's your head's here or your head's here. If you just work on those little things, you're going to get better. And I think that's really, really what parents need to do, is to say, it doesn't matter what team you're on. You have an opportunity to get better, and you have an opportunity to play, and you have an opportunity to have fun, and have fun learning how to improve your technique. And I think, Michael's here and DJ's here live with us. And, I think they would attest to the fact that they had fun in trench training. I mean, we have a good time teaching the fundamentals. And so make your off season fun, make your B team experience fun. Just really do whatever you can to make it fun, and don't worry so much about what team you're on and whether you're winning or losing. Some of my greatest games were on teams that we had losing records. I would love to have won everything, but our team just wasn't at that point. So we had to make the best of it. And there were some games that I still to this day look back on and remember playing phenomenal, and we lost. But I still feel good about what I did.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed. I hated losing, but I enjoyed playing. So that's the key.
Yeah. Well, and I think for my kids, what I think about is number one, fun. Are they having fun? And number two, do they continue to learn the game? Whatever that means. Fundamentals, learning to compete, learning to deal with other kids, interpersonal relationships, dealing with coaches. I really think it's good, and listen, my kids have had coaches that are really good, and we've had coaches that are not so good. But that's all part of it. It's all part of learning and playing with different kids. You're going to learn different things, and some might not push you, but others might. And I think you have to just take all those experiences in, and you're going to be a better player no matter what your sport. But certainly in football, I think all those experiences really add up over the course of time, no matter what team you're on. So
I would agree.
All right. Well, I think that's all I got, Coach. Guys, is there something else you want to add, Coach?
No, I just want to say it was a great article, Steve.
Thanks.
Love doing it. And it's getting close, guys. December 4th is right around the corner.
Yep.
Getting excited.
Yep. And we have registrations are open for both our New Berlin and our Illinois locations. In Illinois, we're breaking them into 3 groups. It'll be 3rd through 5th grade, 6th through 8th grade, and 9th through 12th grade. In New Berlin, wait, did I say New Berlin? I meant in Northern Illinois. I don't know if I said
No, you said it.
Right, okay. Yeah. In Northern Illinois, we're going to do 3 groups. In New Berlin, we're going to do 2 groups. We're going to do 5th grade through 8th grade, and then 9th through 12th. Correct, Coach? We're going to leave it.
Correct.
That's what we're going to do for these sessions. So you can sign up on TrenchTraining.com under the winter training sessions. Also, if you have not gotten our free membership, please do that. Go and click on the big yellow button that says register today. All you're going to do is just enter your name and email address, stay on our mailing list, and then get a password, and you're going to have access to all our free content on there, as well as have the opportunity to get into our private Facebook private Facebook group. And if you are a member and you're not a member of that private Facebook group, make sure you get on there because, again, we want to start using that more and more as we get more people into that group. And we're really excited for this off season, which is our in season, and starting to work with players. So there's an orange button under that black thing right there, under that black image, and that's what you need to be clicking on. So get on there. Again, we've got we're hopefully going to lock up some guests over the course of the next couple of weeks.
Some good ones coming,
we'll have some good ones coming, and we're going to make this show pretty great. Hopefully, we're going to end up with getting this over onto Facebook so that people can actually view this on Facebook. And you can catch the replays on TrenchTraining.com. We'll have we're a couple behind, but we're going to get all those up in the next week or so. So we should be all ready to go. So, guys, thanks for joining us tonight on Tuesday in the Trenches. Till next time. Play big.
We'll see you guys. See you later.
All right. Bye-bye, guys.